I spend a lot of my time helping workers and helping individuals to learn how not to be impaired and how to be in a state to drive safe. This is really important to me because in 2009, my now husband was actually in a motor vehicle accident as a result of being impaired himself.
So in 2009, Thanksgiving weekend, one of my best friends now was getting married. And so it was a festival of the day, I guess. And so we basically started out at the ceremony and everything was great. And then everybody split off to go do their thing for the afternoon. So went out for lunch with a couple of buddies, had some drinks at that point. Things were good. And then we went back for the dance in the evening.
We had been at a wedding, a best friend's wedding, and he had had too much to drink, and I was unaware that he was not in a fit state to drive. So I handed him his keys, he hopped in his Jimmy, and was driving back into town.
I knew maybe I shouldn't have been driving, but I felt fine. I had done it before, no excuse. And I ended up getting into my vehicle and driving and coming in east on 67th. It was a four-way at that time, so I ran a traffic light, hit a Red Deer City Transit bus going 80 kilometers an hour, and I'm lucky I didn't hit anybody that was in a crosswalk.
I had stayed out with some friends and got a call from someone saying, your husband's been in an accident and you need to get there right away. We drove to the scene of the accident where I found out that he had been playing with his radio. He was going 80 kilometers an hour. He drove straight through a red light and T-boned a city bus, a Red Deer City bus. Fortunately, it was 11:30 at night and there was nobody on the bus, so nobody was injured but him. But when I pulled up to the scene, his Jimmy was totaled. There was blood and substances from his vehicle all over the ground. I didn't know if he was alive or dead or injured. No one would tell me anything. At one point, a police officer came up to my car. I was crying my eyes out. I was very upset. And she had said to me, you need to calm down. Your husband's okay. He's at the hospital. You need to head there right now. So I went to the hospital and they wouldn't let me in to see him because at the time we weren't married and I wasn't what was considered family. All of his family lived in BC, so he sat in a hospital room by himself, strapped to a board by the neck and body with no one there to support him. I finally did get into the room where he was screaming my name and crying for me because he didn't remember that I wasn't even in the vehicle.
It happened pretty quick. I remember the airbag going off. They had to use the jaws of life to get me out. It was a pretty bad accident. There was pedestrians that were there that saw the accident happen and basically ran over, opened the passenger door and shut the vehicle off. Waited for first responders. So paramedics came, basically went through that whole thing, secured my neck and put me in a neck brace. Once they got the door open, the firefighters, they put me onto a stretcher and took me to the hospital at that point and in the back of an ambulance. And so, yeah, I ended up at the hospital from there, and I was at this point feeling very ashamed and wasn't feeling too good about what I did.
Luckily, he ended up being okay. He cracked his collarbone. He had some very severe bruising, but other than that, he was unharmed. We went to see his Jimmy the next day and it was completely totaled. And we were told that had someone been with him, they would have been dead. The passenger side airbag did not deploy. So fortunately for me, I wasn't in the car with him that night, but I could have been dead. As a result of all of that, he had to go to court. He paid a very large fine. He had to pay legal fees. I had to get up every morning at 5 a.m. to drive him to work because he couldn't drive. He lost his license for a year. This ended up being a huge strain on our relationship. We ended up splitting up. He moved out. It was a very hard time of our lives. Fortunately, he learned from that. He paid his fine. He did his time, having no license, got his license back. We got back together, got married, and have a beautiful son. But that could have all gone very, very differently, for anybody else.
It's the word I could use. How I felt. Ashamed would be the right word. and it's a situation that nobody should ever be in. And so, you know, I've had to live with it and move on. I definitely paid the price, both monetarily and physically, for a while after that accident, 100%. Growing up, we're all told, and we've all been through those, you know, classes in high school where drinking and driving is bad, and the DARE program, and you see all these reenactments and things that you shouldn't be doing. We have a beer and we drive and we're okay, right? And then that arrogance tends to build over time, years, right? Because then that one turns into two, turns into many, and now you think you've become this able-bodied person that can drive while somewhat intoxicated. It's not the case. You're not driving your full faculties at that point, without a doubt. And so it just got to the point where something happened really bad, and people make that choice all the time, and it's a wrong one.